So, one of the first steps in sewing is you want to make sure that you have all of the items you're going to need to sew. And it depends on what you're sewing. If you're going to sew dresses or clothing, I suggest that you buy a serger. And then if you're going to do quilts or hats, if you're going to do quilts, like big quilts, I suggest you buy a machine that is specifically for quilting. And it'll say quilting on the box somewhere. Now these machines will work for quilting. It's just really hard on the machine. You can break a lot of needles. Even if you get the best needles there are, this part of the machine's not as strong usually. So they have special machines for quilting. And then for hats and, just little projects, little tiny baggies, or your everyday sewing, these are the recommended machines. Just a standard sewing machine. Singer's the best brand. This is a Singer brand, but it was made specifically for shears, so they named it Kenmore, but it is a Singer brand, made by the Singer company. Okay, now, your sewing machine is going to be one thing you're going to need, and you're going to need, we're gonna do this video based on quilting, because that's the subject I'm on right now. So, get you a machine that you can do quilting with. You're going to get you some thread. You need at least 2 things of thread, I would start with, to make sure that you have the same color to get through your project. And then you're going to want to get you at least 1 bobbin. You don't have to have this many. I like to get this many so that when I'm in the middle of sewing my quilt, I don't have to take everything out and fill up the bobbins. So I usually try to fill about 5 bobbins at one time, otherwise you're going to be stopping probably, let's say, every quarter of the way to fill up a bobbin. So I fill up the whole row, and then all I gotta do when I run out of thread is remove that bobbin, pop in another bobbin, and keep going. Alright, so it doesn't hurt to have as many as you can, especially if you're making a really big quilt, but you definitely have to have 1. And then you're gonna want to make sure you have safety pins, straight pins. People use safety pins usually to secure the batting, and then they use these through the sewing process. So these are called straight pins, and you're going to want probably, I'm going to say that you're making a big quilt. Again, this is going to be based on a king size comforter. You're going to want a minimum of 400 stick pins. This is not 400 stick pins. This is about 200 stick pins. My other 200 are in my bag, and I have not needed them for a quilt that fits a double bed. So let's tell you what you're going to need. But I have used every single one of these on a quilt that I'm making for a double bed. So 200 for a double bed at least. And then you have to keep in mind you're going to break some. Some are going to break through the machine. Some are going to, get lost and dropped. So you're going to want to make sure you have a lot of them. That's a need. Okay. Next, you're going to have to make sure you have fabric. You're going to want to go to the store and pick out your fabric. And I'm going to do a video on how to select your or not a video, but a post, a very long post on how to select your fabric. And, but that'll come later on in this album. You're going to need 1 fabric roller. This is to get any lint off later after you've worked with it, especially if you have animals. You're going to need an iron. You can get these for about $5, but all in all, you're probably going to spend around $100, $150, $200 to get everything that you need. Get you a ruler. One of these kind of rulers, these soft kind. Don't get a, measuring tape or nothing. You want something like this, fabric ruler. You're going to want some number 2 pencils and some fabric pencils. And then, you're gonna need, this. You're gonna need a cutting board with the measuring ruling thing on it. Okay. I get this kind because it's a combination. I prefer the bigger ones with a separate ironing board, a stand-up ironing board. But, this is my traveling size, because if I take it places, go somewhere else to work, then I need to be able to take both, and I don't have space for carrying a lot of it. So I get this one because it's the cutting board on the back and the ironing board on the other side. So I recommend that one if you're going to be doing a lot of traveling, going to classes, taking sewing classes, or, volunteering in different places for sewing. Okay, you're going to need a rotary cutter, which is hard to learn to use because they, can be nasty. And you're going to want to choose one like a Frisker's brand or a Singer brand, because they're made really good. And a lot of the cheaper brands, you want to get the best one of these that you can get. A lot of the cheaper brands, they wobble back and forth. And, I'm talking, darling. And, they wiggle in there, which makes them hard to control. It kind of, all over the place on the fabric. I know it's cold. You'll be okay. I'm talking. Then you're going to want a pair of large scissors, for just different things that you may need to do. Like, some things require a little extra cutting on the fabric after you sew it together. So, a standard pair of scissors, sewing scissors, fabric scissors, that you will never use on paper, because if once you use them on paper or another type of material, then they're no good. So you need to get you some fabric scissors in the sewing department, and you need to make sure that you never use them for anything but that fabric, not to open plastic, nothing, or they will never work the same again. And this is a little pair of scissors you're also going to need. And this is for working with your machine. You don't want to have a big pair of scissors you're trying to work in these tiny little areas with. So you got to get in here and cut these strings and cut the extra strings off of your fabric after you sewed it. Because after you sew it, you'll get strings like this on the ends. You got to go in there and cut it off. So you need that. Okay. Now, another thing you absolutely must have is called a seam ripper. That's for all your beautiful little mistakes. And, you gotta go in there when you make a mistake, and this just glides right under there. Unlike scissors, scissors don't work that well. You see I'm doing this with one hand. Scissors, you would never get that with one hand. And then, well, I have to hold it down with my other hand, and I won't be able to get the video if I do that, I don't think. But anyways, yeah, and then that just, I can't hold it down. But anyways, that will, if I was holding it with my other hand, that would just cut that instantly. So, I think that's about all you're gonna need right off the bat. Now, the situation is, things can happen as you're sewing, to the point that you would end up having to go back to the store and get more things. So, you don't have to start out this way, but in your process of learning to sew, if you don't have it, you will have to go out and make a special trip to get it. You'll need extra sewing needles here. You're going to want a different different strengths. Different strengths will allow you to do different things. It'll take 100 or more to do quilting. 80 is good for like thick things. 60s, 40s, there's all different sizes, and they all depends on how thick your material is, how bad your tension on your machine is, and stuff like that. Now, I'm gonna tell you that all machines are basically the same. There are some differences, both in the way they work and in their appearance, but basically, usually the thread is on top, like my mom's. You see the thread on top. Usually they're sitting upwards like that, but hers is laying sideways like that. Okay, but it's all pretty much threaded the same way, even though they're different in different locations. On my machine, they're in the back. So they can be in different locations, but they're still basically all threaded the same. This is what locks when you have your thread back there. Excuse me. You put your bobbin here. Bobbin there. I'm gonna find out where it's at. Okay. Then you lock it. There we go. And then you lock it there. And then, the thread is feeding it. You've already tied a piece of string around there. I'll try to show you that too, but I only have one hand. So usually you hold the end of the string, and you, with your thumb, right here on this little edge here, hold the string there, the tip of it. Then wrap it with your hands around there about 5 or 6 times. Then you're going to put the bobbin on there with that string still attached. Lock that in place. Pull this handle out. You can see that it comes out. And then you're going to take your foot and you're going to press the pedal. And you're going to guide this, lifting upwards and downwards with the speed of the machine. The slower you do this, the more control you have. It will not do this on its own. I see a lot of people just putting their foot on the pedal and expecting the thing to work on its own, but it doesn't. If you let it work on its own, you're going to have more thread at the bottom than the top. You need to guide your machine. You guide it up and down. You guide that thread that's rolling there. And a lot of times what you do before, I forgot to mention that you also have to bring it around here to this. So you after you've tied it on that, you bring it around here on that, because that's going to make sure your string stays straight up here, so it'll get on the bobbin correctly. It provides the tension needed to get on the bobbin correctly. But anyways, so after you've got the string on there with your hands, you feed it around here and put it on this and then lock it. So after you do all that, that's when you start with the pedal and then guiding it. And then you guide it up and down to make sure that it's nice and even. If your thread is not even on this bobbin, it will mess with your sewing. Okay, also, you don't want the thread to come out past this. If you look, you can't really see it too easily unless there's a lot of light hitting it. So when you first take it down, you don't notice it. But there's a bevel in here, like my nail can scratch it. You can feel it, but sometimes you can't see it. Okay? So there's this little bevel in here, and that's to guide you for how thick your thread should be. When your thread gets to that little bevel, that's when you should stop. If you get it out here past to the edge, it's not going to turn right inside the machine. Okay? So then after you get your bobbin done, you unlock it, you put everything back like it was. Alright, you take your thread, you're going to bring your thread across here. It's going to go around here. Let me take it out and show you. Okay. Alright, so you're going to bring your thread across here. I'm gonna make sure you see that in front of this little ledge. It's gonna fall right down in there. Gonna come right around through there. Okay? Hoping that was clear enough. But it did. Okay? It's hard to do a video and see what I'm doing and do this too. It's gonna go up through here. I hope you see that. There's a lot of places it could go. There's only one right place. And that is right through there. Can y'all see that? Only one right place. This is your guide to show you. It goes right, just let it touch right there and slide in there. So that's your guide. See that? No, it's still blurry. Hang on. There, right through there. It's gonna come up. You see how that's your other guide. And a little bit of tension. It's gonna come through. Can't do this and do a video. I'm looking through the camera to make sure I can see. Also, I forgot to make sure that my thing was up. You want to make sure that's up by turning this. That should always be up. There we go. So that's not as crucial, but it's best to get in that habit. I've just done this so long, I do it with it down, and it can be anywhere. Been sewing since I was 9 years old. So then, let's turn a light on so we can see. Alright, so then, this will come down here, okay? And then it's gonna go right between there, okay? And you're gonna come down. Oh, I dropped it. Oof, I dropped it. And go right back there. Did you see that? Okay, hang on. Okay, so it's gonna go back behind that right there. What? You need to go pee-pee? Do you need to go out? You need to go pee-pee? No, the dog needs to go pee-pee, which means I've got to interrupt this video. But anyways, after it goes behind there, hang on, baby, just one more minute. You thread it through that needle. When you go to thread it through that needle, I know, hang on, you gotta be careful because the thread wants to twist up around the needle and you need to make sure it stays straight. Then you will take the thread down through there after you thread it through the needle. It'll go right between that little slot in there, if you can see that little slot. It's right in there. You're gonna push it back. Then I'll have to show you with the bobbin and getting the bobbin up.